we had a unique niche here that no one else had what we had. So I think that was kind of what kept us going.
And you've got some cool New Orleans stuff because you're really in a tourist area as well, so that you've got some great fabrics there. And they're really, I mean, so the other shops have some New Orleans-y stuff too, but you're on kind of a hipster street. So I mean, you're appealing to a certain group, I would imagine, right? Like there's a kind of, I don't know, it's Magazine Street. So there's that part has to play into what you...
I think it does. I like to, the bead shop, Georgia at the bead shop, and I like to say we're in the creativity heaven right here. We have, Ashley is across the street, and the bakery over here. It's all creativity going on. But we have found here that younger people are getting interested in sewing. I think my generation, we had sewing in high school. The girls had to take home ec, and, I made an apron and all of that. We just had to do that. Nowadays, you don't have to do that. And I think it's some of the rebellious young women and men who didn't want to learn to sew because their mothers or their grandmothers were sewists. And now they're finding out it's a wonderful skill to have because you can be creative with it. You can create art.
Right. So, you get create art and cosplay and your own clothing and all kinds of things. And your shop really, it's a very elegant shop too, I have to say. Like it's got a kind of elegance. I know it does, but it does have an elegance to it. It's not a shop that has thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of bolts of fabric. It's like, there's a choice there. How do you choose which fabrics you're going to... we know what genre you're in, right? You're kind of in the more modern, contemporary, it's not... There are not a lot of calicos or Civil War reproduction. That's not who you are.
No.
But how do you make those choices of what you're going to buy? Is it your taste, or do you ask how do you know what to buy?
Well, I buy what I like, but I also ask my customers and the staff here. Our team members can get into our accounts at the various wholesalers, and I'll tell them, look through this line and tell me if you like it. And sometimes they will like things that I don't particularly care for, like I don't care for little kitty prints and things like that. And sometimes they said, oh, no, but that is really cute. We need to have that. And I'll order it, and so we do have a little bit of everything, but I think we do, just like Charlie Harper, and we have some of his art prints, Fron Design Studio. We have some of those things that no one else here in town has, and those are from modern quilters, and it makes beautiful garments as well.
Yeah. Better economically for people who are making garments versus quilters? Do garment makers buy more fabric, or is it about the same?
It's about the same. It's about the same, because if you are a garment maker and you have, let's just say you have a little daughter and you're going to make her clothes, you're going to make several things, and you may spend $100 on fabric, and you'll get maybe 6 or 7 garments out of that are specially handcrafted, and they're gorgeous. Maybe you'll spend $100 on fabric and have a beautiful quilt. So it's both.
How much are notions and other add-ons important to the business?
You have to have them. They're not that important. Most people who sew and quilt already have a stash. They have their notions. They have their threads. But you do have to have them if you have a quilt shop. They are important to have, and they're necessary.
Especially if you have classes, because people run out of things and need it all that.
Right.
And what do you think that people don't really understand about quilt shops? If you're trying to explain to somebody about owning a quilt shop, what do you think they don't necessarily know about it?
The markup on fabric is not very much at all for quilt shops.
Really?
It's very, very low.
Interesting.
We don't make a lot of money off of fabric.
No. You'd think you would, right?
We don't, but we don't.
It takes up so much space.
Not like you're in a ready-to-wear business. That is a bigger money maker than a quilt shop by far.
That's really interesting. So it really is. How do quilt shops make money?
By having
classes?
other revenue streams. You have to have
classes.
something besides fabric. You either have to have classes or you sell the quantity of fabrics that you can pay the rent and pay your bills with.
That's stressful.
Mm-hmm.
Kits? Do kits help or other things like that?
They do. But kits, you have to, if you're putting together the kits yourself, you have to include your labor cost in there and your time. So
yeah,
they're really not a big money maker.
What about purses? People keep talking about purses. Is it like a thing? Has it always been a thing? People making purses, or is it like a thing right now?
I think it's just a trendy thing right now because you have all these famous people out there. I won't mention the names, but you have people who have YouTube channels who that's all they do is make purses. Like I can mention the Crafty Gemini. Everybody knows who she is. She designs fabric now, and she teaches how to make purses. You have Alabama Channon. You have all of these well-known people now who have gotten into the accessory business, and you have designers who have their own hardware for purses.
Interesting.
So if you make a purse, you can have the opportunity to buy different hardware than we've ever seen before.
That's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everywhere. Purses everywhere, everywhere. People, and purse classes and purse, everything about purses. Really interesting. What about social media and outreach? How important is that to the business?
That is absolutely necessary. We
Really?
have, yes. It's time consuming, but you have to do it these days. You have to do Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, everything.
Amazing. And the newsletters and all the other stuff.
Everything is all electronic these days.
And do you do that yourself, or do you hire someone to do it?
I do it myself. I do the website myself. So
It's a lot of work.
yes, it is.
I agree. I'm doing it all for this project, and it's
Well,
way overwhelming.
I have a blog, and somebody told me the other day, "Yeah, Emma, you haven't had a blog post in 8 months." I said, "Yeah."
I find the blog posts are the hardest thing to get to. I'm not sure why. I feel the pressure. Like when I blog, I just wrote a blog post about not blogging. That was what
I know. I'll start a blog post. I'll have an idea, and I'll start the blog post and leave it in there as a draft. And I looked the other night, I had 23 drafts.
Really?
I said if I'd go finish all those, I'd have them the rest of the year.
Totally.
I know.
That's funny. How do you use Instagram do you use Facebook as well? And how are they different on what you're doing on Facebook versus Instagram?
Oh, Instagram is just a much quicker image that you post, and you tag all sorts of things. You can tag tourism for New Orleans, and anyone coming to New Orleans can look up, visit New Orleans, and they'll find whoever has tagged those pictures, and
Interesting.
they could find ours as well.
And because you're on magazine, and because it is a tourist space, how is that different than, say, other quilt shops? Obviously, you meet people from all over the world, but how does that change sort of the flavor of what the quilt shop is? Or not? It's not a quilt shop; it's a needle and craft shop.
Right. Well, I will emphasize though that our chief market are local people.
Oh yeah.
But we do get a lot of foot traffic and a lot of tourists here because of the bead shop and the bakery, and Ashley Longshore. We get tons of foot traffic here. People from all over the world, and we sell Liberty of London fabric, and we have people come from London, and they say, Liberty is cheaper here than in the UK, so they'll buy some Liberty fabric here. I think that's funny.
That is funny.
But they'll also buy some of our handmaids, our children's items, and things like that. We make shop samples and sell the shop samples, and plus I make a lot of little doodads, and my team members do as well. And so they'll buy these things for souvenirs of New Orleans. They buy the little shotgun houses or something from New Orleans to take back.
And is that how, in terms of the shop, the foot traffic and the sort of the buying the stuff that's already created? How important is that in terms of like how does that factor into the shop part, the business side of it?
can't recall exactly what percentage we do of our sales are of handmaids right now, but it is a big percentage.
It's certainly, that's at the very front of the store, and it certainly is a really different feeling than other shops, because they're all of these things that are, the handmade part makes it very welcoming, and you can't help but I've bought a couple things. So
Good.
You can't help but
Thank
buy
you.
things, right?
Okay. Thank you.
And they're fun and cool and interesting. I bought I think I had to fight someone over it. Why? There was a apron that was a Dalek apron, and there were two of us that wanted it.
Yeah.
And we had to explain why we each wanted it more. And I think I was more
Somebody
convincing.
won out. You won out.
Yes, I won out.
Okay. Well, that's what I want people to do when they come in. I love leaving the door open, when we can. And down here we can a lot. But I love leaving the door open, and people come in, and I want them to get an image of something fun and warm and friendly. That's the image I want to convey to people when they walk in the door.
So let me ask you before we end, on the copyright intellectual property side, have you had any experiences with problems with copyright or trademark or anything like that? Like, does it come up on your daily? Sometimes people want to copy patterns, and sometimes they, I'm curious, and also all the stuff that you make. So you make a bunch of stuff here.
We do. And we have classes as well on, sometimes I'll use PDF patterns because those are so quick. You don't have to wait for them to come in the mail. You can just print them right off. But what I will do is if 6 people register for the class, I will buy 6 PDF patterns. I'll pay for for all 6 of them, and I'll email those files to the people. And I won't just print out one PDF and copy it for everybody in there and exploit the designer of that pattern. I wouldn't want to do that. Wouldn't want anyone to do that for what I design either. So, but it does come up. It comes up when I design. I have my own designs, garments and little houses or whatever. And if someone wants to copy that, they want to take pictures of it. I just let them, because I'm not that big. And what are they going to do? They're going to go out and manufacture these, with an assembly line somewhere. I just don't think so.
Yeah. But is that sort of the line? So what if someone buys your shotgun houses, which are adorable? Would you be upset if someone else was making them, or do you expect that other people will start to make them because they've seen it at your shop? And do you sell patterns for making them, or you just sell the finished product?
Some people have asked me for kits, which I may do eventually, and they would be pretty simple to do. I had to get past the holiday season first, but I did do the little chicken, the henny penny pin cushion. We had a class on that, and people asked for kits, so I made them up in kits. It takes a while, the logistics of putting something together and listing exactly what to put in the kit, and then having detailed instructions so someone can duplicate what they see. That takes a lot of effort. So, if I want to put my copyright on that, and that, please don't Xerox this and hand it out to your quilt group.
Right.
That I certainly want to do that, yes.
Interesting. What about quilt guilds and those things? How important do you think they are to the economy of quilting and the community of quilting? Where do they fit within these spaces?
I don't know that they affect us that much. I don't know that they add. We welcome anyone here. We don't have a quilt guild that meets here. And I went to a couple of meetings of the Modern Quilt Guild here in New Orleans, and I was the only one there. So I don't.
That's funny. I was wondering if we had one.
There is one that exists. But.
That's funny. That's really interesting.
But I don't know that my business is enhanced that much by the guild itself. Individual members, yes.
Yeah, right.
Because people say they're members of a quilt guild.
Right. Interesting. Well, anything else that we should chat about before we end? Anything else you think people should know about you or the shop or